It's not time to make a change. Just relax, take it easy. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. But take your time, think a lot, think of everything you've got, for you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. How can I try to explain? 'Cause when I do, he turns away again. It's always been the same old story. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. Whoa, whoa. Change, just sit down, take it slowly. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to go through. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. All the times that I've cried, keeping all the things I knew inside. It's hard, but it's harder to ignore it. If they were right, I'd agree, but it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go.
Good morning, 7:05, Sunday morning, the 4th of August. Hail, hail, God bless. How good can it get? Celtic start as champions. Rangers are out a cup that we have not even started ourselves yet. About to go into administration for the second time. The cash is about to run dry. The taxman's on the case. And Murray has got accountants and lawyers on the case. And this crackpot's on the case at 7:05 on a Sunday morning. 7:05 on a Sunday morning. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening, and in case I don't see them, good riddance to Sevco, our tribute act Rangers. We don't care what the animals say. They're dafties, now, then, forever. Hail, hail. Thank you for joining me.
Birds fly, and the dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I?
Yes, good morning. And it's 9 minutes past 7. You may wonder why I'm doing a show at this early morning. About a couple of hours ago, I partook in a little drink of espresso. I made one up myself. I think I dumped too much of the old espresso in it. So yes, here I am, wired trimming on a Sunday morning, when most people are either going to bed or getting up, or I don't know. I feel I should just stay awake and enjoy this lovely day that looks to be heading our way. But I'll know what's going to happen in another 2-3 hours. The double espresso will wear out, and that'll be me curling up into a ball for a few hours. But all praises for the one true God is the name of this show. In Arabic, that means Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. All praise is for the one true God. Tonight is, could be possibly a very special night in the Islamic world, across the world. very, very, very peculiar how the United States of America would pull out a warning like they've just done on a night that the Muslims call, or what they search for, is Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr. The night of power. The night of power. And yes, it's very strange that the American military junta, nothing against the wonderful American people, some who are counted as one of my best friends, great people. So nothing against any American at all. I've even got a friend who's an American Zionist neocon in the name of Charlie Wolf. But it's very strange how they brought this thing on. And this is a very holy night for Muslims. Now they call it they call it the night of power. I mean, I can't really describe it. I'm very scared to describe it. I don't want to describe it in a way that would I can't really do it justice. Basically, what I'm saying and how to explain it as a lay person. My limited knowledge that I know of Islam, you can put on a stamp. So I'm not trying to preach to you anything because I'm not a scholar on it. So I don't want to try and preach to you. Basically, I mean it's funny how Tommy Robinson and all these experts on Islam, Tony Blair, from how they read it and then they proclaim to be, some kind of scholar. This is a perversion of Islam. It's just very rude, very arrogant, to assume you can know something or can understand something with just a cursory glance at it. And I've only given it as a cursory glance, so I don't want to say what something is when, as I say, I'm not that of an expert on it. But I just wanted to share something with you because, as I say, I'm wired to the moon with an espresso that I had about, when was that? It must have been about 4 o'clock now, back at just about half three. Really, back at 3. I was dying on my feet. And I thought I need to get something into me quick, pronto. So when I had some food, and I think I put about 3 scoops into this espresso, and I'm still wired to the moon. And it's 7 minutes past. What time is it? 13 minutes past 7. Time flies when you're having fun, eh? So thanks for everybody who's joined us. A propaganda push for tomorrow night, 5:30, tell 10 to tell 10, retweet to retweet. 01414161888 is the number to call, as always. There was a problem the other day. I don't know why it happened. I'm going to try and... I don't know why it happened, but my call system was blocking out the other day. So I do apologise for people who tried to phone in. It wasn't until I'd finished the show and I'd seen that there was calls coming through. So I apologise profusely to the good people who phoned in. So tomorrow the show will be opened at 5:30, God willing. And I'm just thinking that, with the stuff that the American military junta are suggesting, that there's going to be an attack by what I would call now, and I think everybody with a brain can see, it's part of their gendarme, their armory, part of their right arm now seems to be this Al-Qaeda. This, whoever it is, Al-Qaeda. But, I mean, the lies they tell you that they're an enemy in Afghanistan, yet now, we were supposed to be meeting them in Qatar a few months ago or a few weeks ago to do peaceful dialogue with them. So they were an enemy, but now we're wanting to get, side up and say, hold on, let's shake hands again after, let's get back to what we were 25 years ago before, we decided to have a problem. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, all those poor people killed in a war for what? Why didn't they get together and sort things out years ago instead of a war of attrition? And then look at the war of attrition being fought now in Syria for the last few years, over 100,000 people killed. For what reason? We're now backing people who are Al-Qaeda? Oh my goodness. Is this for real? What happened in Libya? Did we back Al-Qaeda. Oh my God, we did. Of course we did. Openly funded and gave them weapons. What is this geopolitics that they talk about? This is hypocrisy of the highest rank. This stinks to high heavens. And now, as I say, I'm putting this out here as a way of, not a warning, a message, but if something happens today, I mean, anybody who's a Muslim today should be, well, what most Muslims that I know in Glasgow will be going to is a mosque to sit and contemplate. You know, like a Buddhist sits looking at a flame or contemplate, try to wipe his head. You know, as a Christian, the 40 hours my nanny used to go in the chapel, you know, the 40 hours of devotion, or what was it called? You used to light the candles and you would go in there and you would take turns to man the chapel for the 40 hours. Is it devotion? I can't remember. So Muslims are doing that tonight. So this is what I'm saying. It doesn't, and can I ask everybody if you can check it out? And they say that there's a tremendous stillness because in the latter part of the night it is said, right, that the malaika, the angels descend to the lower reaches of heaven, and God is said to answer people's prayer or call to Him. So, for the American military junta to reduce the Muslim people, where every Muslim, even those who are fighting or whatever, I would suggest that every Muslim tonight will be sitting in a mosque or sitting in contemplation, asking for forgiveness for their sins and asking forgiveness to the God that they believe. So what if they're daft enough or whatever to do to take up a weapon, you know, and they don't know where they're doing it from? Is it for themselves? Is it from the American military junta fighting a proxy war? What weapon are they taking up? What country are they fighting in? And who are they fighting it for? Who is their agent? You know, if it's in Libya, then we know they've got the weapons from the CIA. They're fighting an American war of aggression against Gaddafi. If we know it's in Syria, then they've got these weapons because they're fighting against the American war of aggression against the Assad regime. But any Muslim who are out there tonight, then, as I say, it's like the 40 hours devotion, it's like Christmas, it's like Easter, it's the night of power, Laylatul Qadr. And I ask anyone to check it out in the latter hours, a stillness and a peace where there'll be no wind, or very little wind. It's not guaranteed to be tonight, but on the odd nights of the last 10 days of Ramadan, the Muslims who are requested to seek it out and to make special tawbah, special supplication and special asking for forgiveness to the one true God, Alhamdulillah. I'm going to play a wee piece now by a brother called Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. Purification of the heart. It's absolutely, well, here, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I'll play a wee bit just now because I'm just going to end up babbling. But if anything happens just now, today, then I just can't accept it as coming from a Muslim. I'm sorry. I can't accept it. Same way I can't accept some of the attacks that happen. A Muslim blowing up a Shia place of worship. I don't really know much about Islam, and I know there's difference between the Shia and the Sunni, and I don't know. It's craziness. The world's a crazy place, but I personally don't think a Muslim of anything would do anything on a day like today or a night like tonight. Or in Ramadan, you know, in Ramadan, it's just beyond the pale that anyone would do it. So desist from all violence. I mean, I'm against all violence, but especially at this time, I'm putting this call out for, I mean, I don't really understand. I'm not a scholar, and anyone who are non-Muslims, you know, Muslims need help from a lot of non-Muslims, basically, because they're under the same pressure as the Irish community when it was in the Troubles. Only more so, because they don't know, and the ordinary people, they're not prepared for the EDL or whatever. So help your Muslim out, say salam, peace be upon them, salam alaikum. I'll play this, God willing. Take care of my Celtic brothers and sisters. Hail, hail, top of the league, and they're no. What a wonderful day. Chuckles Green. God bless Chuckles Green. Come back in and do the damage, Chuckles. And Mr. White, he's going to appear soon, isn't he? Right, listen to this brother here. Absolutely puts you at peace, I think.
Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. On that day, which means the day of judgment, nothing will benefit the human being, neither wealth nor children, only the one who brings to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a sound heart. The sound heart, or al-qalb al-salim, is a heart that's free from the defects and the spiritual blemishes. So this heart actually is considered the spiritual heart and not the physical heart, although the spiritual heart is centered in the physical heart. One of the extraordinary things about the modern era is that we're finding out things about the heart that were previously unknown to peoples who went before us. Although we can see within the ancient traditions, for instance in the Chinese tradition, in Chinese medicine, the heart houses what's known as Shen, which is the spirit. And the Chinese characters for thinking, thought, love, intending to listen, and virtue all contain the ideogram for heart. So the ancient Chinese knew that. Also, in almost every culture in the world, people use metaphors that deal with the heart. We call people in English hard-hearted people, people who have hard hearts. In other words, they're cruel people. Somebody who has a cold heart or somebody who has a warm heart. We talk about people wearing their hearts on their sleeves. In other words, they don't hide their emotions, they don't hide their states from other people. We talk about also the idea of he affected me in my heart or in my core. In fact, the English word core, which means innermost, in Arabic the equivalent is called lub, actually comes from the Latin word which means heart. So the core of the human being is the human heart. And also the word courage is from the same root word. So courage being centered in the heart. The most ancient Indo-European word for heart means that which leaps. And there's an idea of the heart beating or leaping in the breast of man. And also people say, for instance, that their heart skipped a beat when they saw somebody. People whose hearts, when they're in love, they often express things in terms of the heart. He stole my heart, or she stole my heart. So many, many metaphors that are used in terms of the human heart. Now the ancients were aware of spiritual diseases of the heart, and this is certainly at the essence of the Islamic teaching. In fact, one of the first things that the Quran immediately sets out is to define three types of people: the mu'minun, the kafirun, and the munafiqun. The mu'minun are people whose hearts are alive, and the verse that indicates that is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا أَوْ مَيِّتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. The one who was dead. In other words, they were dead, their hearts were dead. And also, and so they were revived with faith, and then they were given a light that they walk with it amongst human beings. Also the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, which is الفرق بين الذي يذكر الله والذي لا يذكر الله كالفرق بين الحي والميت. The difference between the one who remembers Allah and the one who doesn't remember Allah is like the difference between the living and the dead. So the mu'min is somebody whose heart is alive. The kafir is somebody whose heart is dead. And the munafiq is somebody who has a disease or a sickness in the heart. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. In their hearts is a disease, and so they were increased in their disease. And this is also in accordance with another verse that says, فَلَمَّا زَاغَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ أَزَاغَهُمُ اللَّهُ. When their hearts deviated, Allah made them deviate further. So when somebody turns away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes them to divert even further. to deviate even further from the truth. Now, the physical heart, which is centered slightly to the left of the human being, and it's interesting also that the Arabic language itself is a movement from left to right. Some of the people of Ishara indicated that writing should be towards the heart. In other words, the whole purpose of writing is to affect the heart. This is also the reason why the tawaf, or the circumambulation around the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is done with the left side facing the house. Some of the scholars have said because the heart inclines towards the left, and so the purpose is that the heart is inclining towards the Kaaba, or towards that centrality of the divinity in the life of man. Now, the actual physical heart, which is beating in our breast, beats at about 100,000 times a day. It's pumping 2 gallons of blood per minute and over 100 gallons per hour. If you actually took 100 gallons of water and moved them physically with your body from one place to another, by the end of it you'd be quite exhausted. And yet this human heart is pumping 2 gallons of blood per minute, over 100 gallons per hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, for an entire lifetime. The vascular system that it's sending this life-giving blood is over 60,000 miles long. In other words, more than 2 times the circumference of the earth. So the blood is actually being forced through the body over 60,000 miles of vascular system in the human body. Now, one of the interesting things also about the heart is that we know that it actually starts beating before the brain is formed, which means that the heart has its own beat. In other words, the heart itself begins to beat without any central nervous system. Now, the dominant theory is that the central nervous system is what's controlling the entire human being from the brain. And yet we know now that the nervous system does not initiate the beat of the heart, that it's actually self-initiated. And we also know, or we would say initiated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also we know now that the entire heart, all of the connections to the brain can be severed in a heart transplant, and another heart can be put into a human being's body, and the heart continues to beat without any connection to the brain whatsoever, because we cannot regenerate nerve cells. So the fact that the heart itself is not only the center of the human being, but it is not beating because of the brain, because of the central nervous system. Now, another interesting thing about the brain is that the human being, there are many actually people that think that the brain is also the center of consciousness. And yet the Quran very clearly states, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts that they're not able to think with, or they're not able to understand with. And so the understanding from that, according to the Muslims, is that the center of the intellect, the center of human consciousness, is the heart and not the brain itself. And it's only recently that human beings have realized that there are over 40,000 neurons in the heart. In other words, there are actually cells in the heart that are communicating, and there's understood to be a two-way communication between the brain and the heart. In other words, the brain sends the heart messages, but the heart is also sending the brain message. And these things are only recently being discovered. There was a study done by 2 physiologists in the 70s, John and Beatrice Lacey, that found that the brain actually sent messages to the heart, but the heart did not automatically obey the messages. Sometimes it speeded up, and other times it slowed down, indicating that the heart itself has its own type of intelligence. Now, the brain gets signals from the heart that reach the amygdala, the thalamus, and the cortex, which relates to emotions. The cortex, or the neocortex, relates to learning and reasoning. And these are only recently discovered, and we don't fully understand them. But what we do know is that the heart is an extremely sophisticated organ, and it's also, according to the hadith, it's a source of knowledge. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that wrong action is what irritates the heart, and you do not desire other people to see it. So the heart actually knows wrong action, and this is one of the reasons why people can do terrible things, but ultimately they're affected. If you look, for instance, in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, what the brilliant Russian author was indicating in that story was that the crime itself is the punishment, because human beings have to live with the results of their actions. And that the soul, when somebody does a crime, when somebody does something that is against the heart, is against the soul, then that actually affects the human being to the degree that they will go into a state of spiritual agitation, and they will use many, many ways to cover this up. This is what kufr is. It's a covering up. They will use alcohol, they will use drugs, they will use sexual experiment, they will use all seeking power, seeking wealth, seeking fame, all of these ways to try to basically to go into a state of heedlessness, into a state of submersion into the world that makes us forget our essential nature, that makes us forget our hearts. And so people become very cut off from their hearts. Now, one of the things about being cut off from the heart is that the more cut off from the heart you get, the sicker the heart gets, because the heart needs nourishment. And heedlessness is basically starving the spiritual heart. When you go into a state of unawareness, of lack of awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of your ultimate concern, which is the akhirah, the infinite world in relation to the finite world, that we're only in this world for a temporary period. And so that when you look at the infinite world in relation to the finite world, suddenly your concerns become focused on the infinite world and not on the finite world. And yet, when somebody is completely immersed in the finite world, believing that they will be here forever, believing that they will not be taken into account for their actions, that this action in and of itself ultimately leads to the spiritual death of the heart. But before it dies, and then becomes putrid and completely foul, it will show many symptoms. And these are called the diseases of the heart. These are the spiritual diseases of the heart. Now, these diseases are divided into two. There are two types of diseases. The first are called shubuhat. And these are diseases that relate to the understanding. So, for instance, if somebody is fearful of their provision from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're afraid that they won't get their food for the day or their provision, this is a disease of the heart, because a sound heart has trust. A sound heart actually trusts in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a sick heart has doubt. So the sound heart trusts in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala absolutely. And this is why the heart does not worry.
So don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. And that was a brother called Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, who was a Greek Christian and converted to Islam about 25, maybe 30 odd years ago. And in the weeks after 9/11, he went to the White House for a meeting with George W. Bush. And as he said after it, it was to give advice, but the advice was not heard, obviously, from Mr. Bush. Anyway, increase the peace, fight the power, seek the truth, reject falsehood, for falsehood is always vanishing. I'm sorry for playing that. I wasn't trying to propagandise anything. When the brother was saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was saying God. It was just, the one true God. the same God as the Jewish people and the Christian people, just, subtle differences, just like the subtle difference between Sunni and Shia, At the end of the day, I believe we're all God's. We're all from the tribe of Adam. We're all from the tribe of man and woman, aren't we? So I bid you farewell, people. Have a good day, and God willing, yes, but purification of the heart. It was purification of the heart, Hamza Yusuf, part 1. Purification of the heart. So I'm away to try and purify my heart, God willing. And back tomorrow, 5:30, God willing. 5:30 tomorrow. 5:30 to 7:30. Followed by, God willing, the boys in Hail Media. And the message is simple from this crackpot. Regards that monstrosity of Radio Clyde. Personally, people who tell lies and spin and call for cheats to be prospering, I just think it's an insult, and an insult to the human ear. And God willing, hopefully I don't insult your human ears. If you join me tomorrow, I'll try and keep it clean, and we'll keep it all matters Celtic. Should we drift into all matters Sevco, then I do apologise in advance. Is it because I'm obsessed? Yes, as Sheikh Hamza says there, it's all about trying to perfect. Well, it's all about trying to perfect my character faults. So I'm sorry if one of my faults has been obsessed with Rangers. Well, I'm not really sorry. Just they do put it this way. I mean, they do put a smile on your face from time to time. Quite a lot of the time in the last couple of years, there's been a big, dirty, cheesy grin on my face because of what Sevco, Oldco, Tribute Act Rangers produce. So long may that continue. And have a good day, everyone. Good night to anybody going for a sleep on the night shift. Take it easy with everybody out there. If you're listening to this during the day, look to your heart. Wear your heart on your sleeve. Be true to your heart. Show your true colours. Listen to your heart. I think that's the message that brother was given, and amongst a few others. Right. Good night. God bless. G'day, Struff. Put another shrimp in the Barbie. If you're out in Australia, it's 8 in the evening. It's 20 to 8 in the morning. So I'll speak to you, God willing. Yeah, not tonight. As I say, an experiment. If you look out in the late evening, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and see a stillness in the air, then it is narrated that it's said that God himself descends to the lower heavens, and people in prayer to the one true God, then, well, he's descended to the lower heavens to hear, or to see the all-seeing, the all-knowing, the one true God, the infinite, and we're on a journey. And I'm on a journey to bed. Good night. Take care. Hail, hail.